Greetings, welcome, and good day. You are now tuned into the 24th episode of the Seasoned Vet Podcast. I'm so happy you can make it to another chapter of this show. Happy African American Music Appreciation Month. This week we're joined by Air Force veteran Staff Sergeant Natatera Green. Staff Sergeant Green enlisted in the U.S. Air Force in 2001 after completing a degree in pre-med and English. She decided the Air Force was the best military route to go in after catching 2 recruiters from other branches in blatant lies. Shortly after joining, she experienced what can only be described as one of the most memorable basic training graduations of the century. She graduated on Tuesday, September 11, 2001. Staff Sergeant Green went on to become a weapons troop stationed in Utah, Korea, Japan, Iraq, and Ohio, which, as you can probably tell, is quite the PCS journey. Staff Sergeant Green is a record-setting airman, one of the many reasons why she was featured in an article in the Stars and Stripes in April of 2007. As a former weapons troop, Sergeant Green comes from a work family with a funny and memorable nickname. And that's why I'm naming this episode LoadToad. Friend! How's it going, friend?
It's going good.
Good. Happy Sunday.
Yes, and this is not snowing here.
Did you say it's not snowing?
It stopped snowing.
It stopped snowing. Oh my God, it was snowing where you are? I don't like that weather at all.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that, so.
Oh my God. Congratulations on it not snowing. It also did not snow where I am. I'm just
where you were right now.
Look, I'm just gonna brag a little bit. I think you might be jealous because when I say it didn't snow here, I mean like for the past 365 plus days.
See, that's my kind of weather. I don't know how I got talked into coming here, but that's me. That's all me.
Right on. Friend, what is your connection to the service?
So I was an Air Force veteran active duty for 8 years.
Come on.
I first joined the military in 2001.
All right.
It was that long ago, but it was. I joined right after college. It was the furthest thing from my mind. I never thought I'd be going into the military. You couldn't pay me to look at somebody in uniform. And I grew up an Army brat. My dad was in the Army.
Okay.
And I had uncle that was in the Marines, and I got a cousin that was Coast Guard, and it was just such a hard time when I was younger. I remember seeing my parents that I was like, no, you can't pay me to join. I would cross the street when I saw somebody in uniform just in case they were a recruiter.
Like, I don't even want to walk by you people, all right? Not even on accident.
I remember when they were calling and I graduated from high school. They would call. My grandma was like, "Someone wants to talk to you." I would hang up the phone. And I got to college, and I was working 3 part-time jobs, going to school full-time. And I had a really good friend of mine. We were in the same classes together. He was sitting beside me. He was Air Force Reserve at the time.
Okay.
And he was like, "Yeah, they're paying for me to go through school, and I'm doing this right now. I'm still getting my degree." And I'm like, okay, I'm working 3 part-time jobs. I'm going to school full-time, busting my butt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I can use some benefits right now. You start growing up and thinking, hey, I got to get serious about the real world. I need, medical insurance. I need some benefits. I need to get this school loan paid off. So, I started looking into it and looking at it from a different view. And I actually interviewed all the branches first.
Okay.
So
you did your research. Okay.
Yeah. And the Army guy, he was the first one. He came over, and of course, right off the bat, he started lying to me. He was like, "Oh, I'm going to sign you up and get you a car, $50,000.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, okay, whatever. I know you're lying. But, I'm going to give you a shot. And, I was doing my research as he was telling me all this. And then the next thing I knew, I had like a couple of months left before I graduated. He shows up with my transcript and a piece of paper and said, "Here, sign here." He was like, "I already pulled your transcript and everything." So I'm like, "Why did you pull my transcript? What is this?" He was like, "Oh, well, we're going to sign for you to go up and we're going to give you this bonus." And I signed this dotted line when are you talking about me going into the military? He was like, oh, in 3 weeks.
Girl.
I'm getting ready to graduate. He was like, oh, you can finish that in 2 years. I'm like,
Get the fuck out of here. What?
I'm like, you must think I'm stupid.
Yo.
I'm like, there's the door.
Girl. He was trying to force your hand.
Yeah. And he thought I was stupid enough to sign the paperwork and not ask any questions. So I kicked him out. And so the next person I interviewed was the Marine. And he just made me mad because I kept trying to ask questions about the service. And he shows up and he's trying to flirt and lie. And I'm like, look.
Gross.
I'm like, how old do I look to you? And he was like, oh, I'm getting you in college. I'm like, yeah, I'm in college. I'm like, take that ring out your back pocket, put it on your finger, because I know your wife won't like you hitting answer my questions. And I'm like, if you can't answer my questions straightforward and stop lying to my face and trying to be cute, then there's the door.
Girl. I'm mad at both of these dudes.
I'm like, I could see the ring around your finger. I'm like, I just want you to answer my question. Yes or no. So I showed him the door. So the next time I had to search for the Air Force recruiter. And so I go up to the recruiting station, and the Army guy that tried to recruit me a couple of weeks before didn't even remember my face. He was trying to recruit me again outside the door.
Wait, Mr. Transcript and sign here on the dotted line. Didn't even remember you, huh?
Didn't remember my face at all.
Trifling mother.
So he was like, hey, are you interested in the Army? I'm like, do you even remember me? He was like, no, I don't think so. I'm like, he just tried to recruit me a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
Oh. And then he didn't have anything to say. I'm like, you know what?
Girl.
So I went and I had to actually search and find the Air Force person. They're hidden all the way in the back office somewhere in the recruiting office. So I have a yellow pad. I wrote all my questions on. And the guy was like, how can I help you? I'm like, okay. I'm like, I have this pad and I have these questions. If you don't lie to me, and if you can get me into the career field I want to go into, today, I will sign the papers to go into the Air Force. Okay. Now, if you lie to me, I'm walking out the door. So he's looking at me all crazy, and I have this legal pad full of questions. So I'm asking him one by one. I have like 10 questions up there. And he's looking at me, and he's like, okay. I'm like, okay. I'm like, what you saying? Now, when are you talking about me going in? This is the career field I wanted to go into. You know, if I can't go into medical, because that was my heart and my background. I was going pre-med. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't afford any more school.
Wait, what was your... pre-med was your major?
Pre-med was my major.
Okay.
And I was double majoring in pre-med and English.
Pre-med and English, okay.
Mm-hmm. And so I couldn't afford any more school, and so I just went a different route. And so I was like, well, if you didn't have medical, I want to go into mechanics because I love working with my hands.
Oh, snap.
So he was looking at me. He was like, okay, this girl's crazy. But he kept it straightforward with me. And he was like, okay. He was like, well, you do have a college, you know, you are graduating with a college degree. Mm-hmm. And he was like, the only thing that we can do, have you considered going OTS? And I'm like, I did want to, but I was also told that I had to go back after I had already graduated and do another semester in order to do OTC, and I had already graduated.
Oh, you weren't down for that.
I was going to go back for ROTC.
Oh.
Because it was too much money. I just paid for undergraduate. So going back for a semester for that, no.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, well, I'll go in and try to do OTC later on. Mm-hmm. So I went in enlisted, and luckily, the person I had at MEPS was a very big advocate of mine because he was an officer. Okay. And he was like, okay, I'm going to make sure they know that you have your college degree. They're going to try not to because they're trying to get you in to make you look like you still have your high school degree that you can go to college. Mm-hmm. But he made sure he put it on everything in certain ways that I had my college degree. And that when I graduated from basic training, I would get a step up.
Okay. Yeah, you should have been at least an E3 at the end of graduation, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he kind of hooked me up. And so, but I mean, I still had a hard time. They still didn't acknowledge my college. It took me 5 years for them to acknowledge all that just for me to get my associates to have everything transfer over from my career field. So it was like a lot going on because graduation day from basic training was September 11th for me.
Oh my God.
So that's when everything kind of hit the fan and changed.
Girl.
Yeah.
That was your graduation. Holy sh! Wow.
I had no idea what was going on. We were in basic training, and we got ready to put down our hats, and they were like, run back to the barracks. I'm like, what? Like, bring your ass back to the barracks. So everybody's running down the street. They didn't tell us anything, and then we're sitting in the barracks, and everybody's watching the news, and we're watching the Twin Towers go down. And at that time, half of us was reserved. 2 of my roommates were reserved. So they were already hearing about orders and stuff like that, getting ready to go out as soon as they left. So we're just watching everything on the news. And we couldn't leave to go off base for a while because they had actually found someone in Texas trying to blow up one of the airports. So they told us we couldn't fly out. We had to take transportation either by train or bus or whatever. So I had to take the bus back home after graduation when they actually allowed us to leave.
Girl, you took the bus from Texas to North Carolina?
Mm-hmm, the creepiest bus ride I ever had.
Girl. This is the wildest story I've talked to a lot of veterans that joined before 9/11, but they had some training before 9/11, or they would have joined after 9/11 and they knew it already happened. You joined not knowing 9/11 was about to happen, and on graduation day, you walked into a war. Yo, this is the wildest graduation story.
I mean, it was some crazy times. So we were just, we knew as soon as we got to our first base, things were just going to kind of hit the fan. So
what was your career field in the Air Force?
So I first started as a weapons loader on F-16s.
Wait, you were 2W?
Yep.
You were a weapons troop.
Yeah. I was.
So hold on, what rank did you leave the Air Force as?
I was a staff sergeant.
All right.
And I was touch and protect at the time.
You what?
It was at the point where I was getting ready to touch protect when I decided to get out.
Gotcha. Staff Sergeant Green. You were a weapons... Yo, I was a weapons troop too, and I also worked on F-16s. Hold on, so that means you left Lackland Air Force Base, and you went to Shepherd Air Force Base right afterwards, right?
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you may have also been in the 363rd Squadron. Sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
So was I. Yo, and those are 2 nice bases for you to have been locked on one for graduation day. Lackland is actually a very nice base when you're not scared out of your mind on it.
I wasn't really scared. I was like, man, okay, I could have graduated if these girls hadn't got us recycled in boot camp. I just remember our whole crew getting recycled because of some crazy stuff the girls did. I'm like, you gotta be kidding. Come on, man.
How far back did y'all get recycled though?
We got recycled twice, 2 weeks, because our girls are just. We went through 2 TIs.
Lord. And it's easy too.
Yeah, it was not fun at all.
No, I know. I know.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Girl.
Just some dumb stuff, like somebody stole a candy bar from KP.
Oh my God.
Got recycled. They left some dirty underwear on the TI's desk.
Oh my God. All right, somebody did that on purpose. Now that wasn't an accident.
I'm like, come on. I'm like, y'all gotta get me out of this crew.
That was very bold of whoever did that, though.
Oh man, some of the stuff I saw or heard, I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
Hey, did y'all ever run into each other later on? Like after you graduated boot camp?
You know what? I wish I had ran into a few of the girls, but no, I didn't. I think a few of them didn't make it out of training. Because I know one girl, she kept trying to get recycled. Or she kept trying to get kicked out. And I remember I had a long talk with her because, she was just so depressed. And she was like, I can't do this anymore. So she had gotten recycled back into our troop. and she did this thing where she decided she wasn't going to take a shower, but the rest of the time she was there.
This was not a black woman, was it? You don't mumble the answer. We both know the answer is no. We both know this was not a sister.
No.
Aye. Talking about out of rebellion, she's not gonna take it. Girl, she could have asked to go home and she could have went home. No, she wanted to do things her way. Ugh.
And they were like, you can stay funky all you want. It was like, you gonna stick on the military and I kick you out. So she was trying everything, and I'm like, okay, yeah, we can't do this. And they had her in the bunk next to me.
Girl.
So she was in the bunk next to me, and then I had another girl.
Absolutely not.
A Percocet on the other side, and I'm like, this is not gonna work. Between the snorer and the one having like night screams, and then the other one's thinking like, no.
Girl, I'm so mad.
I mean, I got along with my bunkmates, but I'm like, we're gonna have a heart-to-heart.
I can't get along with Trash Can Girl. What's her name? Grouch, whatever that puppet's name is.
I pulled her into the shower, clothes on and off. Put the water on her. She was crying. I'm like, you can't do this.
Hey, did y'all have any laundry detergent? I'd have doused that girl in that shit.
I gave her a bar of soap. I mean, she knew I was born in the nicest.
Did you beat her with the bar of soap? Because it's...
I handled it to her very nice. I was very nice about it. I think I was like nice and mean about it.
I feel like a little more aggression was well in place. Or could have been in place.
She got the point enough to where she knew she was going a little bit too far. She was holding her head down.
She just didn't want to shower, girl.
Her in the shower. Yeah, she did not. It had gotten pretty bad.
Yeah, I'll bet. No, because you're doing push-ups, you're doing sit-ups, you're running. It's the summertime in Texas, and I'm so mad at this girl right now.
I think she had gone 4 weeks.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
All right, well, I hope she got her dream of being kicked out. And also, she probably thinks that she dodged a bullet by getting kicked out because her graduation day would have been 9/11.
I don't know, but... Ugh.
Gross. Ugh. All right. The next question is normally, was that branch of service your first choice? But after this conversation, it sounds like a couple of recruiters played in your face. They thought that they could lie to a young black lady and not be caught up in their lies. And the first person to not get caught up in a lie was the Air Force. So there's that question. All right, so I normally do ask, are you the first woman to join the military in your family? So I know the answer to that. Shouts out to your cousin, Lisa Spotwood, community leader, community service organizer.
And you know, I thought I was until I ran across her Facebook page. I'm like, wait, she was in the military?
Yeah, yes. Honey, she is a Coast Guard mother.
She is out there.
Yes.
Yeah. I love her to death, though. I love it. I love her enthusiasm. It makes me proud.
Love it, love it, love it. Were you the first Air Force woman in your family?
Yes, I think I was the first Air Force, period.
Okay.
So it was a little bit different for me because I couldn't get really any advice from anyone else. But I did have some really good uncles. You know, they kind of talked to me about their Korean experience and Vietnam War experience and stuff. So I was a little bit more mentally prepared to go in, and I was older going in too.
Yeah, that did help. At least you got some life experience before you went to the military. That did help.
Right, exactly.
All right.
So they couldn't scare me.
Right. And they probably tried. Some 25-year-old who nobody loved in high school or in real life today was probably yelling at you for 8 weeks.
They're like, what you gonna do when you get out of here? Are you serious? I'm like, I'm not scared. You kick me out. Like, guess what? I got a plan B.
Right. Like, I actually came here with a degree. All right. How do you feel about your time in uniform? And does any particular time period stand out?
You know, now I can say when I do things with no regrets. I couldn't say that when I first went in, though. You know, I went in single, me and my husband, we've known each other since we were 3. And so he wasn't military at all when we married. And that was one of the things I said, that if I went into the military, if I had a family, my family was always going to come first before the military. And I meant that shit.
Right on.
And I told that to my commander. They looked at me like I was crazy, but I was firm about my word. I'm like, you got to give me an Article 15, you got to do what I got to do. My family is going to come first.
I know that's right.
So, I mean, I was a good worker, but I also stood by my word as well. The uniform didn't change me. I mean, I can't say it didn't change me, but it didn't change what I was trying to do, I should say.
Okay. This is just me being nostalgic and backtracking a little bit. You said you worked on F-16s?
Yes.
Are there any other aircraft that you worked on?
No, I was stuck on the F-16s the whole time. I wanted to dabble on the 15s a little bit, but, you know, you have those loading times, and they was like, oh, she's actually good at loading time. And our crew, like, had perfected it in the blizzards and stuff like that. They had us in all kinds of stuff. And so we were starting to break some time records. So I ended up getting stuck with the 15s the whole time until I cross-trained into another career field.
So you were a bomb loader then, huh?
I started out as a weapons loader.
Okay.
And then...
A LoadToad.
Exactly. A LoadToad, and I did the 1-man, I did the 2-man, and I did the 3-man. I did every single position.
Nice.
So I knew a little bit of all of it, and then I ended up being section chief for debriefing when I went to Japan. So I kind of like shifted and did a little bit of something else. I was still in weapons, but I kind of just did another mission with them. And they had me doing like security checks on people, IDs, stuff like that. And it actually kind of worked out when we deployed because I ended up being someone's wingman and being able to do that. So, but I was still weapons and I was still doing training. So because I had my college degree, I was also the advocate for people still getting their education and their degrees while we were in the military.
Right on.
So I was always pushing that.
Right on. How do you think your experience could have been improved? Or could it have been?
There's always things that you feel like can improve no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, it was more on a personal level, staying in communication with my husband.
Okay.
About things a little bit more, just because he wasn't military and I was, and just kind of seeing that perspective. Also, I think I could have spoke up a little bit more. I always felt like there was something I could have done differently or I could have done better, and that maybe I played it too careful. And then there were some times when I just, I spoke up and I spoke out, and they looked at me like, where did this girl come from? Because I used to like turn their words around. They were like, oh my God. Or a couple of times I lost it. Like one guy, he dropped a missile on my head and he was on my crew.
Wait, he did what?
Yeah. So my first duty station, I was the second girl to come into the shop.
Okay.
The first black girl for weapons.
Sounds about right.
The other girl they were trying to date and get up with or whatever. So they were mad with her because she wouldn't date them or whatever. So they were taking their anger out on me. Oh, I hate females. And you don't know what they're doing. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
oh, God. You were working with incels. Splendid. Jesus.
And I had one who was like a scorned boyfriend or whatever. I don't know what his problem was. But he was on my crew. So he decided he wanted to take it out on me because he was still trying to talk to her. So we would be loading weapons. And he was like, well, women can't hold up their own. Blah, 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 blah. And so he would have to be behind me. And I would be in the middle, and he would let go of the weapon and drop it on my head. And luckily, I grew up in a family.
What the fuck is wrong with him?
So I was strong enough to where I could hold my own, and I could hold up the back of the weapon without dropping it up. And we were sliding the missile on. But he kept doing it. So my staff sergeant, I told him, if you don't want to be a witness to anything, I know you just got your strike, but you might want to step out the truck. I might have a heart-to-heart with your 3-man. He looked at me, he was like, well, I'm like, you don't want to be a witness, you might want to step out. I'm not going to tell you what's going to go on. And I closed the door in his face, and the truck drove around, and I hit the dude with a torque wrench.
Nice!
Like, we got some
Hell yeah!
Let's get it out right now.
Yo, you hit him with a torque wrench? That is, yo, hold on.
He's like, what?
Staff Sergeant Green, stop right there. A torque wrench is not a lightweight piece of equipment.
I retorqued it back.
You stop it right now. She said I recalibrated it right after. I'm a good airman, all right? I take care of my equipment. We not about to FOD walk over this shit.
Exactly. Nobody's gonna even know what happened. No witnesses, no broken tools. Walk out like nothing happened. And that's exactly how it was.
Fucking pissy little incel. He got what he deserved. Good for you. With a torque wrench, girl. I'm so proud of you, Green. I really am.
My sergeant was like, I don't know what happened in the back of that truck. He was like, all I saw was the truck going around in the flight line back and forth. I'm like, don't worry, we got our grievances out. We're on the flight line. We don't have to look at each other at the end of the day. We work and we go home. And I know he was scared. He had just became a new staff sergeant too, so he was scared to death of moving. I was bold about some things, but I knew how to do it in a way where it was still professional, but I got my point across.
You professionally whooped his ass. I'm so proud of you, Green.
And they used to pull some shit.
I believe you.
Used to pull some stuff.
Yeah, an office full of dudes, and you're the one of two women and the only black woman. You ain't got to convince me too hard. I know they was pulling some shit.
And he knew it, and he wouldn't say anything. And I used to, say something to them about it. It was a couple of times that we had recalls. They would skip me on the recall roster and call the next person. I remember the first recall we had, they did that. And I was like, I showed up at my regular duty time, and my supervisor, who normally, if I don't show up for recall, is supposed to find out what happened to me, didn't call me either. So he was like, why are you showing up late? We had recall. I'm like, well, how come you didn't tell me? He was like, well, the person before you was supposed to call. I'm like, really? Who's the person after me? They came in. I didn't call them.
Ooh.
So who called them? Oh, I don't know. Well, it wasn't me, because nobody called me for recall. So I had a friend that I talked to, and she was admin, and I would find out when the recall was. They did it again. This time I showed up early, before the rest of the crew came in there. And I looked, and I'm like, I still didn't get a call on the recall roster, so who are you calling? So we have an issue with this recall.
Right.
And so after that, they tweaked it a little bit, and the next time I was getting calls on the recall roster.
Good. They were really trying to mess you over.
They were a mess. And then when I first got there, it was like, oh, well, girls aren't strong enough to be on the flight line. You don't know what you're doing or whatever. So they were sticking me a snack bar cooking for them.
Girl.
So I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now? I'm like, oh, okay. You want to keep me in a snack bar? All right. I shook up every soda that was in the can. You want a soda? Here you go. Everybody was wet that day.
You are a weapons troop. You're on a crew. You have a position and a job. But instead of doing the position and the job that could help the crew and could help the team, they would rather have you in a snack bar? That means some team was one person short, and they would rather to be short. That's stupid.
And then, on top of that, like, we used to have guys that would work in the snack bar before I got there. And they would have, like, skateboarding shows and stuff like that. So if I played something that was even remotely had one black person, like, oh, what is this? What is this?
Girl.
I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I got a problem with black movies. So this is when Medea started coming out.
Oh, Lord.
The Tyler Perry movies. So they were getting Tyler Perry education because it was playing all. It was like, oh, what is this? What is this? I'm like, oh, I'm watching a movie. I'm like, no, if you're going to have me in a snack bar, you're going to watch what I watch. And you're going to get a shaken up soda. Here you go. and that's what they got. And after about a week or two of that, they got tired of seeing me in a snack bar. So then they put me on the flight line.
Finally.
So then my crew was, like I said, I was the only black female still in weapons and second female. So they still gave my crew a hard time. So they used to put us out there in the blizzard and put us through testing and surprise inspections all the time. And then we start beating the times. We started doing really good with our inspections. But we would be the only crew out there working all hours of the night in the blizzard all the time, all day long. And I knew it was because he had a black female on his crew. And then there was a time when I did have an issue with one of our other sergeants, and he said that he was like, I don't like black women. I'm like, they don't like you either. So we got something in common. There's a reason why people. I'm like, that's why you divorced right now.
Oh, sounds like white women don't like him either.
Exactly. I'm like, you got a problem with both, so you got a real issue. And he was just going on and on and on. And I remember one of our aircrafts went down. And we weren't even working on that aircraft today, but his crew was. And they were trying to figure out why the aircraft went down. And then they uncovered a tool that he had found, but he etched out the toolbox number and tried to write my toolbox number on it and said it was mine. And he was spreading rumors around because he was a sergeant and he thought it was going to go. But I always signed my stuff in and I signed it out, and I took pictures of when I signed it in and out.
Good.
So I had a timestamp and everything. So they called him in a lab, but they didn't do anything to him. But he was trying to get me in trouble. And trying to say it was our toolbox, but it wasn't.
So wait, they caught him doing this shit. They caught him blatantly lying, trying to like fabricate information, and didn't do anything to him.
Nope.
But if that shit had been true, and you had actually been like messing up the paperwork and messing up this toolbox, you absolutely would have paid the price for that.
Exactly. If that aircraft had gone down and it was my fault, I would have, yeah.
Girl.
Yep.
Okay.
So.
Well, I hope he's doing terrible in life.
I still managed to get past him and move on wherever I had to do. I didn't let him like get in my way of stuff. But he kept trying, and after a while, he gave up. Because I wasn't one of those that tuck and cry. He came across the wrong person. So,
he gave up.
he gave up. He would try little things, but eventually he gave up and he left me alone.
Good. He should have gave up on life because the world would be a better place without him. And that's me saying that, not you. You're a good person. You wouldn't say anything like that. I would. All right. Sergeant Green, could you tell me about a time when you experienced something either good or bad that you know to be unique to you because you are a black woman?
Definitely. I think it was two things.
Okay.
Definitely when I went to Iraq, I remember being there and they wanted to interview me for Air Force Times because I was doing so much volunteering in the hospital.
Okay.
And I would go for my shift on the flight line and volunteer in the hospital and work another 12-hour shift because I knew how many people, were coming in and out and back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And they hadn't seen a lot of black females or females, period, in weapons coming back and doing that and actually being hands-on and having the experience I had. So they were very interested in interviewing me. And at the time, our original section chief was on suicide watch, and I was his wingman. So we had a stand-in section chief. And he was pissed off, and he was like, oh, she doesn't do anything. She's lazy. She's not real weapons. Why don't you interview these guys? And it was both white guys. So if you look it up in the Air Force Times, you'll see a picture. I'm the only black girl and girl there, but they had to make sure they put some white men beside me. And they had to make sure they got interviewed. And they were like, we want to interview her because she's a female and she's in weapons. And they couldn't stand it. They could not stand it over feminists. But we just had to make sure that, they had some men that they interviewed. And I'm like, you know what? When they were announcing this, I'm like, make sure if they're interviewing somebody, it's somebody who has some real value and not just someone you're throwing in there for an EPR bullet. Because when I go over there, I actually care and attend to people who are sick and actually care what goes on. I'm not just over there getting an EPR bullet or another medal on my shoulder.
Right. Now, you said you spent some time in Iraq, of course, because 9/11 happened on your graduation day. But you also said you spent some time in Japan.
Yes.
So when did you leave Iraq, and when were you able to go to Japan?
Okay, so I spent most of my time in Asia. So our first duty station was in Utah Hill Air Force Base.
Okay.
And then I was in Kunsan, Korea for a year. And then I went to Seoul, Japan for 4.5 years. And I got out in Ohio.
Okay.
So while I was in Seoul, Japan, I deployed to Iraq for 7 months.
Okay. Yeah, a few overseas experiences, and wow, your stateside experiences were really Utah and Ohio. All right.
That was because I was a black female too. I had a.
They were trying to add some color in Utah. Jesus.
Yeah, I had a black instructor while I was still in training, and he was trying to hit on me.
Gross.
And I made a comment about. I'm like, this must be the reason why you're sleeping on the couch with your wife, with your cats every night. This is the reason why your wife got you on the couch. And he got pissed. And so when everybody got orders, everybody was getting orders to Nevada and all these sunny places. I was the only one that got Utah.
Girl.
The only one.
Men are so spiteful when you don't sleep with them.
And I guess he thought it was going to break me. That's not my first rodeo.
Girl.
I knew how to handle that. That wasn't going to be, yeah.
Girl.
I knew exactly when I got Utah. Everybody else was like, there was even people who went to multiple bases together, like Vegas and all this stuff. And I was the only one in Utah. Everybody was looking at me like, you got Utah?
Yeah.
And he was grinning. I'm like, But it's okay. I know how to handle it. I've been in situations like that before. It's not a big deal. That was funny because, Utah, of course, is a Mormon state. And you see a lot of black people.
Yeah.
Like, come on. And it was even worse because I remember walking through the mall, and there was this black lady. She was old enough to be my grandmother. She comes up out of nowhere, hugs me. She was like, I'm so glad to see you. She's like, girl, I'm so glad to see you. It's like I haven't seen a black person for a long time. She's like, I want to call right now.
Girl, you doubled the population of black people in Utah. If I was her, I'd have ran up and hugged you too.
I couldn't do anything but smile aloud because I knew exactly what she meant. It was just funny.
Yeah.
You make the best out of the situation wherever you are.
It sounds like you did.
My first situation been thrown into something like that, and I knew it wasn't going to be my last. So.
How long did you and that black lady that you met at the mall keep in touch?
You know what? It was just like one of those random things we didn't even exchange numbers. She just hugged me and she was like, it was just good to see you.
I love it.
She was in from out of state and she was like, it's just good to see you. And that was it. It was just... And it's weird because now it's like, I moved here. I'm in Vermont, of all places. People are like, why you moved to Chicago to Vermont? My husband's for his job. And it's the same way here. People don't know how to act when they see somebody black.
I'm going to be honest. If I was in Utah and I saw a black person, I would run up and hug them. We would be best friends at that point. This would be one of those Celie and Nettie moments.
Well, at least the black people, like, even though they were strangers, they ran up and they talked to each other and hugged, like, hey, it's good to see you. Here, it's like, they going to hide. You don't even see them come out. They see you, they run away even in the store. They don't, I don't know. Vermont's its own different atmosphere, but that's another story.
I believe you.
Going to Iraq, it was a good experience not because of the war, but just because I brought back a lot with me as far as like what I saw, what I learned, I knew what to expect going out there. I mean, especially being a female, like I was out there with my Air Force crew, but I knew how they were before we left, and I knew I couldn't trust them going out there. As far as if anything went down, I knew they wouldn't have my back. So like when we were getting attacked and there was mortars coming, the truck drove by and it was me and another girl, and they didn't pick us up. They just kept driving. It was like, oh, we're gonna stop, but we didn't have time.
What the fuck?
I'm like, you know what? I didn't expect you to. That's why I grabbed her and I jumped in a ditch. I never expected or was waiting on you to stop, because I knew their mentality was like that.
In the middle of war,
Mm-hmm.
the people that you're fighting on the same team with are busy also fighting against you for no reason.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Girl.
Just that spite. And then it was me and another black girl. She was in my shop, but she did another career field. She was like, I think she was like logistics or something like that. And I remember we were talking, and we were on the plane and finally getting ready to come back. And we get off the flight, and I would never forget, me and her get off together. We're the only ones that don't have family there. My husband, he came back to the States with the baby. You know, she wasn't married. She didn't have a boyfriend, anything like that. So we're walking off alone. Everybody else has family, friends hugging them. We walk off the plane and go back home alone.
No fanfare.
No family, no friends, and you already feel isolated and separated as a black woman in the career field. That just makes you feel even lower. And I know, like, from my husband's, point of view, and I understood because he had started a new job, and my daughter was 6 months old at the time. But he was back in the States, so I had to wait to come back to the States and go to my family. I had no family coming to me, so it wasn't that same support, that same writing, hey, how you doing? I mean, I remember calling the States and had to do checkups on my family, on them, and nobody trying to call me or email me and say, hey, how you doing? I remember calling the States, and my uncle that was in the Vietnam War, or the Korean War, I called him, and he was like, hey, how you doing? I haven't heard from you in so long. Where you been? I'm like, oh, I'm in Japan. He was like, what you doing in Japan? I'm like, I'm in the military. You're in the military? Nobody told me you're in the military. How long you been in there? And I was already 6 years in. And he was like, I was in Korea, and so, we were connected about that. But it's just, I had to reach out to family because of where I was. And I didn't have that support reaching out to me. Whereas with with men, I felt like most of the time they have that support. They have somebody caring about them, and
yeah,
like, oh, well, you need somebody to take care of you, and this and that. And with the women, we just kind of out there just winging it.
No one holds you down the same. You're right. Yeah, it's an isolating experience.
So you learn it, and I definitely didn't see a lot of high-ranking black females until later on, until I was almost getting out, and it was one. And it was a black female, and she was a general, and I was doing
what?
Black female woman general. And I was trying to figure out more because you don't see that.
Right.
And I barely saw anybody, a black female, who was high-ranking at all.
Right.
And rather less being able to talk to a female who was high-ranking and just having them as a mentor.
Man, a general.
So I didn't.
Were you even able to? Wait, did you see her, or did you just know about her?
I just saw her in passing, and they was like, "Oh, she's a general." Da, da, da. I'm like, "What? Huh?" Like it just blew me because you didn't see that. You didn't see that very often.
Look, I joined the Air Force in 2004, so there's a small chance she was still in when I was in. I didn't even know she existed.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, for us, we don't know that. We don't have that connection to the females in the military. We don't have that connection to females outside of the military. I'm just now connecting with female veterans.
I'm gonna say that must be an Air Force thing because I had family in the Coast Guard. I'm not talking blood. I'm talking like community and village. What you're describing, and you're not the first one. You're not the first black lady to say that you didn't have community or you didn't have a village while in the Air Force. I'm starting to think that may be like an Air Force thing.
Yeah, I know it definitely was, because a lot of women in the Air Force, really they did feel a little isolated, and they didn't talk a lot. I mean, Air Force was kind of closed off a little bit, period. It wasn't that camaraderie like the other branches. And I'm going to honestly say, when I was deployed to Iraq, I didn't like it. I didn't like I snuck out and I hung out with the other branches. I hung out with the
I don't blame you.
They were solid. They were rock. I was comfortable with them. They taught me stuff. You know, I was working side by side with them in the hospital doing hands-on stuff, and it was a different experience being out there with them as opposed to my own guys who I feel like they went out there, they weren't prepared. One of them almost got ran over by IUD because he wasn't paying attention. They just, the mindset was different. Like, I remember getting pissed off because it was like, oh my God, the alarms are going off again. I just want to go and get Starbucks. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me right now? I'm like, wait a minute, I'm a war zone. Seriously. They built a Taco Bell and Starbucks on the Air Force side. And, you know, we're trying to hide from the IUD and getting blown up. You know, I'm just like, it was crazy to me. It was weird. And even, like, riding around in a truck, like, it was just things I was more aware of, I guess, because I had people who were military. So I'm looking around, I'm like, okay, you know, we have Iraqis who usually work on base and is building stuff. I'm like, oh, nobody showed up today. And I'm talking to my section chief. I'm like, you notice anything different? He's like, no, what are you talking about? I'm like, nobody's working today. We're going to get bombed. He's like, how do you know that? The people from the village didn't come today. Like, he's working on the base. Like, you know we're going to get attacked and you don't see anybody. It's completely quiet. So that kind of stuff.
Boy.
I don't know. You know, when you see stuff or you say something, they always kind of just wave you off, pass you off, like, you know.
Wait, you were telling your chief that y'all was about to get attacked and he waved you off?
Oh, yeah. Or, like, I saw an IUD that fell in the middle of the flight line, and I was trying to get the radio and radio the truck before one of the guys ran over it. It was like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, get out the damn truck and do a sweep.
Wow.
IUD just fell. And he keeps waving me off. The section chief waves me off. And so I found one of our officers, and I'm like, hey, an IUD, looked like something like an IUD just fell in the flight line, and they haven't done a sweep. And because I've done background checks for him, and I was in really good with our commanders and stuff from some of the work I did, he actually listened to me, and he made them get out the truck and do a sweep, and it was IUD.
Okay, but here's the thing. You had to have had a background with him for him to listen to you.
Exactly.
You were giving good, solid advice, life-saving advice. But even in that moment, knowing who he was, you had to be worth listening to for him to listen to you.
Exactly.
I'm so glad I got out of the Air Force. Oh my God. This was not home away from home. Huh.
It's just, you know, it's just, I don't know. I was just blown by some of the mentality and some of the things like people did. But like I said, I went in, I was a little bit older, and, you know, I went in with a different mindset than a lot of people did. But even then, I kind of expected the racism and the sexism, and that wasn't my first rodeo going through that. You know, I've experienced a lot of that growing up, or about the way I talk, or about the way I act. Oh, you don't act like a black girl.
What the fuck?
Or you don't look butch. You don't look like a weapon loader. Or you talk like you're white. Or, you know, it's all these stigmas. They expect you to fit into this box. And if you don't fit into that box, they try to make you fit into that box. Because that makes people makes them feel uncomfortable. So if you don't fit into this box where they think you're supposed to fit into, then they start feeling uncomfortable and they don't know how to really size you up.
Sounds about right.
Interesting.
Sounds about right. You are right. It's a very interesting dynamic. Oh, man. I bet I know the answer to this one.
I got a little off topic there.
Nope. You did good. When you brought complaints to your chain of command, do you feel that you were heard?
Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no.
No,
I
you
had
couldn't
to,
even, you could barely get heard when you were telling them how to save their own fucking lives.
I had to basically show them rather than tell them. It's bad because you know how they have the old saying, someone falls on their own sword. You just have to let them fall and be like, okay, I tried to say something. There, that was my camaraderie.
Yeah.
Now where's yours?
Yeah. At the beginning of your career, oh my goodness, I know the answer to this one too. At the beginning of your career, when you needed guidance and mentorship, were those resources provided for you, or did you have to seek them out?
I definitely had to seek them out, and it wasn't the way they communicated and talked. It wasn't in the same way like they communicated and talked to other people. You know, I collected information. I had to store it, and they even told you only little bits and pieces. Like I remember one of the big things, and it's a big effect now because I have a kid going to college, was the GI Bill. So I went in because I was like, okay, I want to get my school loans paid off, benefits, blah, 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 blah. And they was like, yeah, we're offering the GI Bill right now. And the GI Bill, you can use it and transfer it to your kid 10 years after you are out of active duty. If your kid qualifies to go to college, you can transfer your GI Bill over to them and they can use it.
Nice.
But what they didn't tell people was that you had to activate it while you were still active duty. So all these people who went in for their spouses and their kids to try to get them money for school, they left a little loophole out so they couldn't transfer it over to them. And so for me, I'm like, well, at the time, it was either you take the GI Bill or they paid off all of your college loans.
Okay.
So the GI Bill was more than my college loans. And I knew I was going to go back to school for another degree. So I'm like, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to take the GI Bill. That's where more money is at.
Right.
And at the time, I'm like, okay, if I don't use it all, I can still transfer it to my kid. So I did go back, and I was constantly having to get certificates and stuff, and go back and get this and that to prove that I could do a job that I already knew how to do. You know, I ended up using it to go back to school to do more stuff. And so, you know, it wasn't a waste, but I have a little bit left. And my daughter graduated early. And I work for the VA as well. So it's a lot of stuff you still don't know until, like, you're actually trying to get these forms. And you're like, wait a minute, when did they change this? And it's like, oh, it's been like that. You guys never told us that. So now I need to see what you're offering us in writing so I can see the little fine print below it that says, oh, well, you need to activate this while you're active duty for this to transfer over to your kid.
Right. That actually answers another question that I'll be answering, ask it later. You answered a couple of questions with that one. All right. Oh, but on a lighter note, were you able to make friends with other Black lady veterans? Were you purposeful about building your village?
I was. And as a matter of fact, it's funny how I met my best friends because when I first got stationed to Korea, actually, my first and second best friend I met in Korea. And we all got stationed in the same career field. We were in the same squadron.
Nice.
We were there at the same time. And it was funny because we were going through our in-processing together, and then we ended up working in the same command post and everything. One of them ended up being my roommate in Korea. And we PCS to our next duty station to Japan together. So we were all at the next duty station together as well for a couple of years.
Nice. Oh, once again, what part of Japan?
I was in Misawa.
Asawa?
Misawa.
Masawa.
It's near Hachinohe.
All right, I'm going to pretend like I know what you just said. Thank you. Right? Ma'am, are you sneezing on the mic? That's not what I asked you. You didn't have to tell me about your allergies, all right?
It's kind of near, I guess, closer to Mount Fuji. That's right.
Ma'am, we both know I'm not about to look up where... You keep trying to educate me geographically, and it's not going to happen. I'm going to just stay stupid, all right?
Like, I'm trying to educate locate myself because I'm trying to remember where I was. They had me all over the place. Oh my gosh. But I'm glad I went to these places because I met some very wonderful women. And these two ladies, we're still friends today, even though we don't talk as much as, I would like, but we still kind of keep in contact and keep up with each other. But they were there when my first daughter was born. One of them, she showed up right when I was having her. She called my husband because my husband couldn't make it in time. And they were there, one on each side of me, helping me push the whole time.
Right on.
So those are my girls. And we still remain girls to this day. And my perception of the military, I'm like, I couldn't see myself retiring. And then we have another one. She was younger than us. She actually just retired.
Wow. Okay.
So it's like different spectrums of
yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah. Wow. I'm so glad that you were able to make Black lady friends, though. I love this for you. Like, Black lady veteran friends, that's important. That's village. That's important. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, to actually have somebody braid your hair once in a while.
Amen. Amen.
Just keep your hair down.
All right, so you got up to the rank of E5, right? That's a staff sergeant.
Yes.
All right. Do you feel that the way you were treated improved with rank?
I don't know.
I was about to say that chuckle gave me hell no vibes.
Kind of got more creative of how to be more disrespectful.
Sounds about right.
It gave me more money, but it was just another way of people trying to just find more ways to make you feel less than them and try to make you feel at the bottom of the totem. And I was one of those persons that didn't hold my head down and tuck my tail in.
They hated that. Because it seems like every base you were going to, somebody was trying to humble you in one way or the other. They were either trying to flirt with you, or they were trying to, or just intimidate you.
Yes.
I
actually had this one guy. He was a master sergeant, and it's my first duty station. And I never, like I said, I grew up in the family of guys. Mm-hmm. My grandfather was a minister, and so a lot of my mannerism, it just came natural to me. So one day he was like, "Hi, nice to meet you, Airman, blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "Nice to meet you too." And he goes to shake my hand, and normally you shake with hands sideways. And he goes to try to turn my hand, so his hand is upside down on top of mine. And it's like we're playing a tug of war with our hands.
What the hell?
I'm not going to turn my hand. So, we're like twisting each other's hand, and he keeps trying to force his hand on top of mine.
What the
and
fuck?
I'm playing like basically tug of war and squeezing his hand and turning it back, and I'm matching his strength. And he looks at me and he starts to frown up, and he was like, "You know what? I never came across anyone who did that to me." And I'm like, "What is he talking about?" And he was like, "Normally when someone tries to turn your hand and force their hand on top, it shows a sign of them dominating you."
Why was he trying to dominate you in the first place? What a weird thing to greet someone with.
And he was like, it shows that they have the upper hand and they're the dominant person and they dominate.
Men just find new ways to be weird. In any situation, these are the most creative.
I've never heard of that, but I'm like, okay, think what you want, but you're not going to turn my hand. Whatever.
Why are they so creative with stupid shit, though? You were just introduced to this dude. This was y'all's first meeting, right?
First meet. I was just an airman, and he was a master sergeant.
Look, dude, you already outranked me. Why are you trying to outshake me too? Like, what the hell is wrong with you?
And I'm like, "Oh no, we're not gonna do this today." And I'm like, he's squeezing my hand, I'm squeezing his just as tight. And it was weird.
Yeah. Gross. I'm not even mad at you for leaving before retiring. Like, you would have lost your marbles had you stayed in too much, or I would have lost my marbles listening to your story if you would have stayed in too much longer.
It was some crazy stuff, but I had some fun times too. I learned how to have my laughs too, and a lot of times they didn't know what to do with me.
And it wasn't their job to figure out what to do with you. You was there to load bombs. That's it.
Oh, I did some crazy stuff. Like, I was a practical joker. Like, oh, you want to mess with me? Okay. So I took their faces, put it on the bodies of Teletubbies, and I posted pictures.
Lord. Good job. I'm glad you found a way to get creative, too.
I was bad. Permanent marker. I was asleep. Yeah, I was bad.
Good.
I was just as bad as them. They didn't know what to expect from me, so they left me alone.
Good. They deserve surprises. I'm glad you surprised them. Sergeant Green, has there ever been a tough situation you were in where another sister helped you out, or a situation where you were able to help out another sister?
I would actually have to say it was the time when I was mentioning when my friends came to my aid when I was having my baby. Like I said, my husband couldn't make it back in time. It was our first daughter, and they actually had to induce me. And I remember my friend one of them was across the street in another apartment, and I was telling her, I'm going to the hospital. They might have to induce me. I don't know what's going on, but I'll let you know later. So she did the phone tree, and I didn't know she called the other friend. And I was preparing myself mentally in my head to have the baby on my own, just to be in the labor and delivery. And all of a sudden, they just popped up, like 30 minutes right before I'm about to pop her out. They was like, "We got you."
Wow.
And so she was there taking pictures. And then I remember the day I was supposed to leave, I'm like, okay, I'm going to leave. I don't have a car seat. I don't have anybody to drive me home. And I was too proud to call anybody. I still, even though my friends had came and they were there, they helped me deliver the baby, I still didn't call them. And one of them called the hospital, showed up with the car seat, like, come on, let's go home. And I'm like, I'm crying. I'm just like, oh my God.
This is a good friend.
It was like she was reading my mind.
Oh, this is a good friend. Showed up with a car seat for your first kid.
Showed up with the car seat for the first kid. I didn't even know she was coming. She knew what time I was getting ready to get discharged. She had called my husband and gave him the room number, and he'll call me while I was in the hospital and see how I was doing. But yeah, I wasn't expecting any of that, but she went all out.
I love this sister. That's just good village. That's good thinking ahead. She must be a mother too.
Yeah, she was.
Okay, good. Because I'm telling you right now, if one of my friends... I'm telling you right now, if one of my friends goes into labor and I'm driving, doing stuff for them at the hospital or whatever, it would never cross my mind to get a car seat to help her get home with her brand new kid, because I'm not a mother, so that would have never crossed my mind. I'd have been like, diapers? I don't know, maybe like a onesie or something. What do kids like? I would have never thought to get the car seat, but that's a damn good idea.
Yeah, I mean, she showed up and she just, it was like she knew. She had called them and asked them when I was coming, and so I'm like, I don't have anybody to pick me up. I don't have anybody to go get the car seat to bring me. I was going through all this stuff in my head, and she was like, okay, you ready? And I'm like, how'd you know? She was like, I called the hospital. I'm like, oh my God.
I love it. Good for you for having friends that dedicated to your well-being. All right. Do you feel that you are a better leader than the ones you grew up under?
Sometimes I still doubt myself.
Okay.
There were times when I was like, I'm not the type of person people would listen to. I'm more the type of a follower. But I know I'm not a follower either, because I have my own mindset. I'm one of those. I've learned that I'm very hard-headed. And I go to my own beat. So I'm definitely I'm not a follower, but sometimes I get in my own way when I know I can be more of a leader than I am.
I understand that. Okay. Tell you what, you're not a worse leader, that's for sure.
I'm finding my voice, and I'm finding my footsteps again. I don't say that.
From what I have understood, you have had leaders that have tried to flirt with you. You have had leaders that have tried to intimidate you. You've even had leaders and coworkers that tried to get you killed, basically, by not putting you in the truck. So you're not worse than them for sure. And I would go out on a limb to say, I think you might actually be better.
Thank you.
For sure. For sure. Can you tell me, are there any sisters in service that inspire you? Past or present, doesn't matter which branch, doesn't matter which rank, whatever. Any sister in service that inspires you?
Honestly, I have to say my number one sister has been my cousin Lisa.
Get it.
Oh my God.
Get it.
She's a force to be reckoned with.
Who you telling?
Man, like, I'm just like, I know. Every day it impresses me with her.
She is impressive. Yes, yes, yes.
And, you don't realize the value of what you have when you're younger. I'm, as an adult and having kids and getting older, and as I look at things evolve, I'm like, man, this lady. Like, I knew she was in the military, but I didn't really ask any questions, and I really didn't talk about it with her too much, but I wish I had, and now I get a chance to talk with her more. But I'm like, man, I can't keep up. Yeah, she's definitely been one of my inspirations.
I know,
and
that's
then
right.
I can honestly say I just started having connections with more female vets recently. And last year, I started my first women network training and doing stuff with women from across the nation on Zoom. And one of the ladies there was a peer who trained me.
Right on.
And she has definitely been a really big inspiration for me and wanted to share this experience and do it with other women. And especially being a woman of color, which I've never been able to connect with until now in this manner. That's been a really huge, inspiration for me. And she's retired, and she still has a love and passion for connecting with women. And it's getting me enthusiastic about it as well. And I'm like, yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Right on. Right on. You're building village. I love it.
Yes.
Okay, Sergeant Green. Let's say you were just starting your life on your own and you were presented with the chance to join the service for the first time. Knowing what you know now, would you still join?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I always went back to maybe my life would have been different if I had done this, this, and this. Because actually, I was supposed to go for my master's in Illinois instead of go to the service, and I did a pivot. But honestly, I think I probably still would have did it. Like, a big part of me, and it sounds crazy, I remember being younger, I wanted to join the Peace Corps.
Okay.
So a big part of me always wanted to get out there in the world and just, and this was kind of like the Peace Corps, even though I was owned by the government, I was still out there, like, I met people from different countries. I interacted with so many different people from around the world, whether it was in, a negative way or a positive way. Most of the time I had really positive impacts and experiences with people, just because I was so outspoken. It made me be able to be the person I am today, to be able to open up and share my experiences with other vets and be able to guide them through the system and to make them feel like their word matters just as much. And that's what I'm trying to give back now.
Okay, so you would still join the military. Would you still join the Air Force?
That's a trick question. From what I heard, the Air Force pays more money and our housing is a lot better.
Hold on. Who told you the Air Force paid more? In what respect?
Every other branch told me. They was like, oh, the Air Force, you guys get paid more.
Y'all don't get paid more. You just have better, you do have better facilities. I will say the dining is 5-star. No shade to our cooks in the Coast Guard, but this Tavern on the Green over on Air Force Base, The pay is the same. If you're an E4, you're an E4. No matter what branch you are, the paycheck looks the same. But some branches do get like better bonuses. Like I think the Army and the Air Force do get like the best bonuses to give out to their new recruits.
I think that I don't know if it's changed a lot, but I know like our ranking was based off of testing and stuff. If you can pass the test, you got your next rank. Some other branches were saying how it was a little bit harder to make rank a little bit faster. So I don't know. I was just hearing rumors. I was trying to figure out the difference.
You thought y'all got paid more. That is cute, Green.
That's what someone told me. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't see it, but that's what they were telling me. They was like, oh, you guys get paid. Cause when I was in,
you know what?
We had a bunch of Army and Marines and stuff coming over to the Air Force. They were like swarming in.
Wait a minute. And you look, I know you remember what the size of your checks looked like. So you thought you was getting paid more than any other E5, and that was the size of your check? You thought you thought the other branches was just broke.
Exactly. That's what I thought in my head. Because I'm like, oh, this is getting paid? I'm like,
wait, I get paid the most, and this is what I get paid? Y'all broke. Green, I'm definitely keeping that part in.
I was thinking that the whole time. I was like, okay. Like, they were making it feel like they were so broke. They was like, we're sleeping on the floor. And, oh my God.
You know what? The Marines might be doing that. And here's the thing. I think they just do it because they want to. It's not because they're underfunded. They just enjoy a harder life.
They were like, we broke.
Right.
Is it really that bad? Like, I was thinking like we were kind of around the same thing, but they were selling it.
The Army and the Air Force are, once again, the best funded. You get the best facilities, you get the best equipment, you get more money to spread throughout just what you're going to work with, bonuses and whatnot. And also, y'all are better manned, which is probably why I'll say as a weapons troop, you definitely had less jobs than me as an admin person, a human resource person in the Coast Guard. As a human resource person in the Coast Guard, I had about 5 other jobs other than the main one that I was actually supposed to be doing. Like, I was standing watch, I was like doing gym duty and all kinds of dumb shit that they should have been paying a civilian for. So the jobs that I was doing, the extra duties that should have been done by a civilian that was getting paid, y'all have actual civilians that actually are getting paid to do those menial tasks. So you're better funded in that regard.
I was very surprised that I didn't know that went on with the other branches in that way. Like they hid that from us. We were spoiled because
yeah. See, as a weapons troop, you had one job and one job only, and that's the only thing you ever had to worry about is the thing that you were trained to do.
And then, I mean, if I had a choice, like when I got back from Iraq afterwards, I did cross-train over in the cardiopulmonary. So it was like, I had a choice though. It was nothing to do that. But I didn't know it was so many different branches that were having to like spread themselves thin. And I remember being in Iraq, one of the girls was like, yeah, she was like, I haven't done my original job in blah, 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 blah years. I don't even know what our original job is.
Yeah, it's possible. The next question is, if you have a daughter or any young impressionable black girl in your life that you cared about and she was considering a life in the military, would you try to talk her out of joining? So I've learned over the course of this interview that you actually have 2 daughters, right?
Yes, and it's very funny that you mentioned that. I'm glad you asked this question because I have a 17-year-old and she's actually going through college right now. And I was actually, trying to mention to her about maybe the military, her considering it. She's like, nope. So she was my younger version of me. Like, that's the furthest thing from my mind. I'm not even looking at it. I'm not looking at somebody in uniform. What is a vet to me? I have no idea. So she doesn't even know what a vet means to her. Her mom's a vet. And I'm like, you can get a scholarship for writing about what a vet means to you. I don't know what a vet means to me. I'm like, are you serious? So, like, that's not even in her, like, thoughts right now. But my youngest daughter, she was like, okay, I still don't know what I want to be at. I know this is maybe what I want to do. But she brought up to me and she was like, Mom, I think I might want to be a cook for the military later. Like, I'm kind of thinking about it. I'm not sure yet.
Did you say a cook for the military?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She likes cooking.
Nice.
So she was thinking about that. And I've told her about my experiences. And I've showed her, my military books and stuff. And I don't fluff it up or, make it seem like it was a romantic story, because it wasn't. And I'm like, you got good and bad of everything. But it depends on what you make out of it. And I also take her with me to the veterans place. And there's a place that we have especially for veterans to meet and we socialize. And I've started meeting with a lot of women vet. And so I've taken her around the women vet there. And we have vets of all different eras, from the Korean to the Vietnam to I just learned about wax. So that was a new one for me. But I mean, we have them all. A black female vet there, and she was one of the older Army vets. So I just kind of let her listen to their stories and kind of listen to their experiences and how they feel. And I'm like, I can't tell you what to do, but I want you to make sure you have an educated decision and you make up your own mind. Because it's not all going to be beautiful.
Right,
and
right.
Everybody's experience is different. But you're hearing it and you're making a decision for yourself. And whatever you do, I'll be supportive of it and try to make sure I get you as much information as possible.
Right on. Right on. That's a solid answer. And I'm so glad you had actual daughters that you could use for real world examples.
And I actually just went through that because, everybody was talking to her and telling her, like, this is what I went through. This is what I went through. And she was just like, okay, well, I don't know yet, but it's good to listen to them and to be around them and just to experience, like, seeing some strong females who were veterans and role models. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Sergeant Green. Recruitment and retention is down across all the branches and with all demographics. Black women are not excluded from that. This was true even before the pandemic. Why do you think Black women are so disinterested in joining the military?
Oh, that's easy, because Trump might come back in office.
Girl!
That's the reason why I think it's not, so that way, if he gets back in office, we're going to Canada.
Girl!
Yeah, that's crazy. But what if they're in the military under him? Especially a Black female. Come on now.
Did you say Canada? She's like, I'm not even taking a chance of getting recalled.
I'm right here at the border. You're not playing.
Oh my God. And you was a weapons troop, they still need weapons troops in the Air Force. So you right, because you can fuck around and get recalled.
See, that's where that loophole comes in, and me educating myself. So I signed up for 6 years.
Yes.
There's a loophole if you involuntarily or if you voluntarily extend your enlistment. I extended it to 8 years, so that 2 year they can call me back. I used it as active duty and had them to retrain me into another career field.
Okay.
They can call me back.
She said, I don't never want to see y'all again.
So they can call me back in the weapons even if they try.
Look, when I said it's over, I mean it's over. Don't ever call me. Lose my number. I'm blocking y'all.
Exactly. I learned a lot, but I'm done.
Oh, man. Sergeant Green, we are getting close to the end of our interview. But if you were conducting this interview from where I'm sitting, what question would you have asked you that I did not ask you?
You know what? I think you covered a little bit of everything. I mean, like I said before, I did do 2 jobs, and cardiopulmonary was my second job, and I did that for the remainder of my years in the service. And that was one of the hardest jobs. That I think that was harder than weapons, even though I was in a field full of men doing weapons. That was just a hard job morally. But I think
pulmonary. That's close. That's closer to what you actually wanted to do, anyways, right? Because you were a pre-med major, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a long story too, right? And then I was trying to go into that when I got out, and what happened was that one of the female sergeants who was training me, they were getting orders to get deployed, and I had just made the decision to get out, and she was trying to put me on the deployment in her place without me knowing.
Wow. People are trifling.
And I came across them having a meeting in the room, and I was supposed to be on the meeting because I was one of the NCOs, but everybody was in there except for me, and I wasn't on the email.
Wow.
And so I overheard the conversation, and I was like, oh, okay. And so later on, they found out I already decided I was going to get out of the military, and she's supposed to sign off for me to get credit for all my training, so that way I can get my license as a respiratory therapist outside and then transfer over. So she didn't sign for it.
Wow.
So I just went back and I went back to school for some more certification.
Jesus.
And right. She was a black.
Yo, no, man.
Yes.
Damn. All right.
Shit. And I wasn't looking for special treatment, but I'm like, man.
But you wasn't looking for bad treatment neither. Shit.
And I was one of the only ones who already had my college degree. Everything would have transferred over. I would have had an associate's in respiratory therapy. All I would have had to do was get out, test, and get the civilian license for the state I was in.
So you went ahead and got other certifications anyways, like you.
Yeah.
All right.
So I went and got certified as a medical assistant because I knew I could get that in 6 months because I found I was pregnant with my second daughter when I decided to get out.
So she really doesn't know mommy in the military.
Exactly. She was a couple of months in my belly before I decided to get out. And I'm like, okay, it's meant for the family to be together.
Wait a minute. You were pregnant at the time of your getting out, but someone was trying to deploy you at the time of you getting out?
Yeah.
And you were pregnant?
I was pregnant, and I had just found out I was pregnant right when I decided to get out. So they didn't know I was pregnant.
Oh. About to say, these people are triple trife.
But when I was pregnant, they did it was some trifling things they did because I had a person who was on isolation and had chicken pox.
What the fuck? Hold on. An adult had chicken pox?
Had chicken pox, and it was a really severe case.
Yeah, because they were an adult. That's damn near shingles.
They didn't tell me, and they knew I was pregnant at the time.
Girl.
And they assigned me to the person. But luckily, I've already had them, and I knew how to kind of not trust them because I've already had those trust issues going to Iraq. So I just kind of fully prepared myself, gown, mask, everything else. But it was so bad, the person had chickenpox in their mouth. It was really severe. And it could have affected my baby.
Of course.
And they didn't say nothing until afterwards.
All right. Number one, I'm sorry about what happened to you. And I'm really sorry that it was a sister that was trying to mess you over, man. It always breaks my heart when it's one of us. It hurts a little bit worse.
It does, because I don't want us to feel like when we're in these career fields and we're working and we're out here together, we feel like we got to be enemies towards one another.
Right.
And it's not, we're not competing. We're supposed to be working together. We're supposed to be a community, but sometimes we still have this mentality like we got to compete.
We're supposed to all be like that black lady in Utah. Exactly. Just run up and hug a sister.
And I still remember her. And I think she still remember me because she said there was only one person in the mall.
Right.
And I did not mind.
Good. Tell me a war story. A story where you were tested but came out on top. Be the hero in your story.
We were still when I was in Iraq. I just remember, and it's going to sound bad because everybody was like, oh, well, Iraqis are our enemies and this and that. And I remember they would separate the Iraqis in different bays. There was this one bay, it was all male, the other one was all female. And there was like this 1-year-old baby. And the baby was like a casualty that had got hit by a stray bullet in the park. And his mom was separated in the other bay. And because the baby was Iraqi, they didn't really want to deal with it. And they kept putting a sheet over his head and covering it up. And he was screaming from ear to ear. And he was in the bay with all the men. Iraqi men really don't like pick up and use like fucking that way or whatever. So I remember picking him up and holding him and trying to console him because he was looking for his mom. And they yanked the baby out of my hand. They were like, no.
Girl.
They threw him back in the crib. They was like, we're just not going to do that. I'm like, why? Because he's Iraqi.
It's a human being.
And I'm like, is it? Yeah. I'm like, it's still a kid. And I just remember thinking, like, sometimes people's mindset are so warped and so programmed to what other people are feeding them that they don't think for themselves. Like, even some of the Iraqis, like, we did have some insurgents, but we did have some who were just civilian casualties. I mean, we had these blueberry Sara Lee muffins, and I was shoving them in my purse and stole from the cafeteria and pass out muffins to people so they could eat.
I love
because
it.
They weren't feeding them. And they would see me and they would remember me and they would call the muffins biscuits. I was like, biscuits. And they would whisper to me, biscuits, because they were starving. So I would just give them, like, I would steal a muffin and give them a biscuit. And
I love it.
Sometimes they won't feed these people all day just because of their race. And sometimes, like, some of these were civilians and we had to treat them in the hospital because if you sent them to the wrong hospital back out into their community, then they wouldn't get taken care of. They'll let them die if they went to the wrong sector. But that was one of the things I remember. And I used to come in there every single night for a 12-hour shift in the hospital after I would get off a 12-hour shift coming in from working the flight line. And we would always have those weird on and off days. So I remember, like, I would be dedicated to going straight there from my job. And they would remember my face, the ones that were in there for a long time. And they would always be like, biscuit. And I was sneaking my biscuit.
Shit, they were happy to see you. You were like the one good thing in their day.
Exactly. But I mean, I just remember, like, people working together from all over the country. There was an African soldier who was there, and he was, I mean, it was just people from all over. But sometimes we just get so warped that we don't see humanity.
Yeah.
So programmed.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be like that.
No.
And I understand, like, there's some things that you got to open your eyes to. Like, there was a kid there, and he was young, and they had taught him to set off a bomb, and he ended up setting it off and couldn't run away in time, and he blew off his leg.
Wow.
And he was not older than like 10 years old.
He was a baby.
But exactly, and he was told, this is what you have to do for your people, for your country. He's a kid.
Right.
Like, he's taught that. And I'm not saying that they can't be as dangerous either, but also there are some people who are still humane. If you look at us, we're not looked at as human people.
Right.
We're still treated as animals.
Right.
Even not just in the military, but also in civilian society.
Right.
We're still looked at as not human. And Black women are looked at as least human of them all, because I've sat in a civilian job and have heard people try to do this hierarchy. Well, it's white men, then white women, then Black men, and then Black women, the very bottom of the totem pole below it. Every race, everybody else were the below of the below.
Right.
So at least we're not as bad of a shape as them. That's what people think in their heads.
Yeah.
And that's how they treat you.
Yeah. Sergeant Green, I will say, you have the kindest Middle Eastern treatment story of any veteran that I've heard. And what I mean by that is, like, I've worked with other veterans that worked overseas, worked in the Middle East, specifically, in Iraq and in Afghanistan. And these are gentlemen that would brag about what they did to children and women. It was pretty disgusting. As you can imagine, you know what they're capable of. So you probably already know the stories that I was hearing. This is the first time I've heard of someone doing something nice for these people. Just on a human level. Like, you're not saving a whole bunch of lives, but while you can be human, you were. Look, feeding people is just a common human decency. So thank you for sharing that with me. Sergeant Green, we've come to the end. Is there anything you would like to leave our audience with? Any parting words, anything that you wanted to promote or push or anything like that?
Definitely, if for any ladies that have not connected, definitely check out our Woven community. We're trying to grow it in spirits among all the women vets out there. It's the Women Veteran Network, excuse me. A little tired tonight. But it's called Woven. You can look them up, and they're connecting with women from all over nationally. And we're trying to get the word out there and spread more and get more of a connection.
You said Women's Veteran Network? What is that, a Facebook page, an IG page, Twitter?
Yes, it's a Facebook page. But they also have a website. It's called Woven.
Woven. Can you spell that?
Yes. WOVEN.
WOVEN. That's .com?
WovenWomenVets.org.
So WovenWomenVets.org. All right. Thank you.
And then for my sisters, as well as, anyone they want to add on to it, I also have a very nice lady who has set up the United in Sisterhood. You can check out her Facebook page. United in Sisterhood.
United in Sisterhood. All right. All right. So we got a website, wovenwomenvet.org. Did I get that right?
Yes.
All right. And then we got a Facebook page, United in Sisterhood.
Got it.
That's what's up. I'm going to see if I can find United in Sisterhood on Facebook. And anybody who wants to follow, I'll be following them. So you can look at who I'm following and go from there. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Welcome.
That's what's up. That's what's up. All right, Sergeant Green, thank you so much for taking the time. And I know you just got back home. I know you got other stuff to do. You have family obligations. And I just wanted to thank you very, very much for taking the time, making the time to share your story with this platform. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Your story was important and very informative. And I can't believe how calmly you told me all that. I could not.
In the heat of the moment, I used to be a little hot-headed, but I've learned not to raise my blood pressure up. The rest of the family, so I try to keep it cool.
Good for you for your good temperament. I am not. What's hotter than hot-headed? I'm lava-headed. All right. I'm hell-headed.
I can get there, but I've tried to manage it.
Good for it. Good for it. Thank you so much. Thank you again for sharing your story. Thank you for taking the time to be on this platform. And yeah. And for all of our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in. Bye now. And that concludes this episode of the Seasoned Vet Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. And a special thank you to Staff Sergeant Green for sharing her story and taking the time to make this interview possible. Now, if you are or know a Black lady veteran who would like to sit down with me and be a part of this show, please email me at seasonedvetpodcast@gmail.com, or you can call or text message me at 713-254-0970. You can also find, follow, and inbox me, the Seasoned Vet, across all platforms of social media. At Real Seasoned Vet on Twitter, at Seasoned Vet Podcast on Instagram, at Seasoned Vet Podcast on TikTok, at Seasoned Vet on YouTube, Seasoned Vet on Facebook. Y'all, I'm so out there, I'm even on Spoutable. That's at the Seasoned Vet on Spoutable. All episodes of this show are available on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon, and anywhere else you get your podcast. Now, if you like what you heard, please like it, share it, rate it, and leave a good review on whatever platform you're listening to this on. And if you're hearing this episode on the day it drops, then you're listening to it on June 3rd, 2024. On this day in 1906, legendary singer, dancer, actress, and civil rights leader Josephine Baker was born. Josephine Baker was not only a World War II spy and one of the most famous African-American performers in French history. She was also the first African-American woman to star in a major motion picture. She passed in 1975. Thank you again for tuning in. And until next time, fall out.